different by design does not mean that you walk around with the ego of I'm special. Different by design means you have a different brain development, a different brain chemistry, a different way of processing the world from other people. It doesn't mean you think you're better than, it doesn't mean you are better than, and it doesn't mean somebody else is less than or better than. It's not a comparison game. We want to grow beyond that to understand that everybody has a story. Your life is your story, and it pertains to all of us. Friends, it's Diane here at Someone Gets Me on a very casual day after some travel and having a retreat and running a retreat actually. And so there's been a lot happening. And so today we're doing a little bit more of a casual show because that is where I am. Casual. Yes. And I was thinking about our stories and how people say all the time, your life is your story is important. And I was just facilitating a retreat and I said a comment similar to that about people's autobiographies being important. And a couple different people in the audience kind of rolled their eyes or looked at me like theirs wasn't important. They didn't say that, but their look was that way. And then a little bit later on the next day of the retreat, I made a comment that all people have great value, even when we don't understand them. Got some eye rolls on that one too. So I thought I would talk a little bit about these kinds of things so that we have something to think about. So you can take the things I say, whether you agree with me or not, and then expand them into your own world. See how the things that maybe I mentioned that I may or may not personally agree with land on your heart. How are you influenced by your own story, your own autobiography, and how are you influenced by the autobiography or story of another? And let's start with that word, influenced, right? Because a lot of people, we did an exercise about influence, and most people thought it meant positive influence, even though I said it's a neutral word. And then some people thought it meant negative influence. And my intention was, and my description was, that influence is a neutral word. We can be influenced in any direction by anyone or anything. The question, or the better question, is about how are we influenced and are we aware of the influence? Like some people are being influenced all the time by people and they're not really paying attention to that influence. It's not priority on their mind. And other people are hyper paying attention to the influence. And so I think the balance is somewhere in the middle, depending on the situation. But the point I want to make is that once we start judging what we think another person's description or word or idea means without hearing it directly from them, we are judging in a way that isn't always helpful. I was talking to somebody who was saying they were judging themselves about, well, if I admit that I'm gifted, if I admit that I'm neurodivergent, then people are going to think I'm special or I'm different. And different by design does not mean that you walk around with the ego of I'm special. Different by design means you have a different brain development, a different brain chemistry, a different way of processing the world from other people, which is one of the reasons why I say being neurodivergent applies to just about everybody in different ways, depending on how we're using the word. But to say that somebody's gifted, like I know that I'm a gifted neurodivergent woman. I know that for sure, right? And that doesn't mean I think I'm special. It doesn't mean I think I'm different. It means that the way I process the world is variant in nuanced ways from others. And so you might be somebody who processes the world outside of the box of your current system, maybe. And so you would be considered different by design because the way you do it is different. It doesn't mean you think you're better than, it doesn't mean you are better than, and it doesn't mean somebody else is less than or better than. It's not a comparison game. This isn't that old school black, white, we have to compare in order to have our identity. We want to grow beyond that to understand that everybody has a story. Everybody has a life that has given them experiences. And it's the experiences and how we integrate and understand and apply the lessons from those experiences that will manifest in our life trajectory or in our route of life, if you will, what road we're going to take. You could have a hard life and then be really a bitter, kind of mean, cranky person, or you could have something hard happen to you and become even more compassionate and open and loving. Both of those options could come from the same thing, the same similar situation. It depends on how we integrate and process things and what we do as far as our own transformation. I find it often in people I'm working with in all kinds of venues, because I do a lot of different kinds of work with people, and I do work on myself. And it's interesting to me to watch a lot of different people out in the world do these things that are against, or they don't align, I guess is a better way to put it, with what they say they believe. So one of the questions I ask myself all the time is what I'm saying aligning? Does my face look like how my insides feel? Am I all lined up, or is it all just kind of disjointed? How is that? Because if we say one thing and then we're acting really fragmented, we say, oh, I'm grounded, but you're acting fragmented, there's a disconnect somewhere. And that's not to judge it as good, bad, right, or wrong. It's about awareness. I think the most important thing for us as neurodivergent humans is to have awareness of how we interact with others, awareness of how we speak to others, awareness about all of these other things that I think matter. Like, we want to have awareness of how we show up in the world, how much of us shows up in the world, and how do we do that anyway? How does that work, right? We want to have these things in a way that is effective. Another part of your story that I think is really important is, what are you doing with it? Like some people just kind of go through life and they don't really realize the value or importance of their story. I've suggested to a couple people recently to use their story as the storyline, if you will, for either a book or articles or something, because their story is compelling. The things they see, the things they understand, the way they process things is beautiful and remarkable. And I believe that if it's shared with others, it will give others permission to be their authentic, remarkable self. And so I keep encouraging people, tell your story, whether it's in a book or whether it's one of those books where it's like a memoir or like a fiction that's based on real life. It doesn't have to be outright your autobiography, but how are you honoring your story? Are you telling it to people in safe ways? But the bigger question is, are you using the events and integration of your life story to serve yourself and others? Are you using your life story to continue to be, or begin to be, a beneficial influence here on planet Earth? Like, what are you doing with it? Or are you doing anything with it, right? Like, I love to say, okay, I have had all these amazing experiences, and some of the experiences in my life have brought joy beyond measure. Some of them have brought pain beyond measure, and I've had almost everything in the middle. But recently at my retreat, I got to be reconnected to my niece on a deeper, more amazing way. And then kind of my best friend's daughter, who's like my niece also. So I got to have these really amazing connected relationships and conversations with people that I haven't had those kinds of conversations in a while. And that is part of my story. How it is that we didn't talk for a while, and how it is that we were brought back together in amazing, magical ways. And so those stories ought to be told, because there's people probably listening to this podcast that feel estranged from people they love, or maybe that feel alone, wanting people that they love and care about to care about them too, or to engage with them somehow. And so what I did was I opened the door. That's all I did. I opened the door to my niece to say, hey, come visit me. And she said yes and came. And I did it to my friend's daughter, who's my other niece too. And I said, hey, I'm here, come visit me. And within a few hours, she was there. So by opening the door and giving permission to the people, places, and things in your life to bless you and to be with you and to connect with you and grow with you, opening that door gives that other person lots of freedom to be able to decide how and when they want to engage or not. Like if either one of them would have said no, I still would have loved them. The love doesn't change with a yes or no. The care doesn't change if I see you every day or once every 10 years. But how are you letting your story unfold in a meaningful way? How are you inviting in others that are meaningful to you to be part of your story, even more enhanced, right? Like how are you doing that? And are you allowing yourself to receive the beauty and goodness and love that comes from connection, both with yourself and others? It's really quite amazing when you think about it. And of course, we can look at any part of our story and see those things, because it's so funny because I watch people in food. Food is a really fun thing. If you go have dinner with a bunch of people you don't know real well, or even your own family, or go by yourself and watch other people, in restaurants and things. And you can see people that have relationships with food. Some people have a loving relationship with food and they appreciate the yumminess of things. And some people just gobble it down and I don't even know if it hits their taste buds, right? Some people like simple food. Some people like exotic food. Some people like all food. And so our relationship with food helps us see where we are as far as having internalized unresolved grief or pain going on. And so it gives us like a barometer, I guess is a better way to say it, of being able to tell if our pain level's high. If our pain level's high, we're gonna often either restrict food or eat too much or eat too fast. Something's not going to have a nice pace. There won't be this flow and pace and beauty. However, if complicated unresolved grief is not running the show, then often we eat at a nice pace and we enjoy our food and we chew it properly and we breathe when we're eating and all of the things that are natural, normal, human ways to express ourselves. And so I want to encourage you to take a minute and look at your story. Look at, experience, maybe even journal a little bit about your story. And then ask yourself, how can I integrate all these things to then even enhance further my beneficial presence? How can I be that light in a world that is seeking your light? See, you're not here by accident. You're not listening to me by accident. This is a very important thing. We're all in this world together doing these amazing things. I had this great retreat where I got to facilitate all these really cool, different by design, neurodivergent adults through some exercises. They were even surprised. I had a couple of people say, I've done a lot of these things, but I've never done the things you've had us do. Well, that's because I've used my autobiography and my ability to synthesize and integrate to bring experiences in a custom way for people that can never be repeated again. I had people ask me to record the whole thing, and I'm like, I could, but it doesn't work, because what happens in the way we intuitively and energetically work together, it has to do with who's in the room and what the flavor of things are. So if you miss this retreat, you'll have to come to the next one to really experience it. But it was so beautiful to be in a situation and be in a time apart from everyday life, to meet new people that I've never met before, to reconnect with people that I know quite well, to honor people who also presented, and most importantly, to honor all of us as individual human beings here on planet Earth, yearning to transform and bring even more goodness to the world. So it really warms my heart to pay attention to the stories, right? So I took some time and rested a little bit, and I'm still processing the beauty of everyone's stories. And then I started thinking about Someone Gets Me and how it all came about and how much I've yearned in my younger years to have someone get me, and how coming out of this retreat, I've connected with new people in my life that get me in a way that I've been yearning for a long time. And there were some other events that had they not happened, those people wouldn't have been there for me to connect with. So all the events that I was in control of and not in control of came together to allow for an experience that was beyond my understanding, that was more than I anticipated. And yes, there were rocky roads and ups and downs. That always happens. But the point is, when you look for the lesson, when you look for the good, when you seek out those things that you know can enhance and make life better, your story becomes uplifted. That's how it works. So at Someone Gets Me, my goal is to make sure that nobody leaves me feeling unheard or uncared about, that you have a place here that's safe, that is sacred, and that I put a lot of energy into because I really believe that you deserve to be heard and understood. So here on the podcast and in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group, you have that safe place. You can always make a get to know you call with me, and I'm happy to talk to you and just hang out and spend time or answer questions, whatever you'd like. Because my goal since I was in high school is to listen to you and hear not only what you're saying, but what you're not saying. So thank you for being part of the Someone Gets Me Sangha or family. Thank you for being part of all the amazing things in the world that you are doing as a beneficial presence. And always remember to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You are here on purpose with a mighty purpose. And so until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, be well.